The grandfather clock in the hallway struck 11, its deep chimes echoing through the vast Montgomery mansion. Charlotte Evans stifled a yawn as she gently closed the leather-bound storybook, careful not to disturb Luna, who was fighting sleep, with all the determination a 5-year-old could muster. "Just one more story?" Luna pleaded, her small fingers clutching her favorite teddy bear. Her dark curls, so much like her father's, spilled across the silk pillowcase of his king-sized bed. Charlotte shook her head, her honey blonde hair catching the soft glow of the bedside lamp. "It's way past your bedtime, sweetie. Let's get you back to your room." "No." Luna's bottom lip trembled. "I want to wait for Daddy. He promised he'd try to come home early tonight." The words struck Charlotte's heart like tiny arrows. Theodore. Montgomery, CEO of Montgomery Industries, was many things. Brilliant, powerful, devastatingly handsome. But early wasn't in his vocabulary. In the 6 months she'd worked as Luna's nanny, Charlotte had watched the little girl's hope fade, night after night. "Your daddy has important meetings, remember?" Charlotte tried to keep her voice gentle, though inside she felt a flash of anger at Theodore's constant absence. Luna deserved better than empty promises and cold mornings. "He always has meetings," Luna whispered, her voice small and hurt. "I just want him to kiss me goodnight, like he used to when Mommy was here." Charlotte's chest tightened. Luna rarely spoke about her mother, who had abandoned them 3 years ago, leaving Theodore to raise their daughter alone. The wound was still raw, evident in the way Luna clung to any promise of her father's attention. "Okay," Charlotte found herself saying, against her better judgment. "We can wait here for a little while, but just until you fall asleep." Luna's face lit up, and she snuggled deeper into her father's enormous bed. Charlotte knew she shouldn't allow this. It was crossing a line, entering the forbidden territory of Theodore Montgomery's private space. But the genuine joy in Luna's eyes made it impossible to refuse. The master bedroom was exactly what she'd imagined, yet somehow more intimate than she'd expected. Everything spoke of refined masculine taste: dark wood furniture, crisp Egyptian, cotton sheets in deep navy, and a subtle cologne lingering in the air that made her pulse quicken. This was where he slept, where he let his guard down, where the powerful CEO became just a man. Charlotte settled beside Luna, telling herself she'd move them both as soon as the little girl dozed off. But the bed was impossibly comfortable, and the gentle sound of Luna's breathing was hypnotic. Her own eyes grew heavy as she watched the moonlight dance across the ceiling. Just for a moment, she told herself. Just until Luna was fully asleep. The next thing Charlotte knew, she was floating in that hazy space between dreams and consciousness. Something had changed in the room, a shift in the air, a new presence. Her eyes fluttered open, and her heart stopped. Theodore Montgomery stood in the doorway, his tall frame silhouetted against the hallway light. His tie was loosened, dark hair slightly disheveled, but his presence commanded attention even in this state of disarray. His piercing blue eyes locked onto hers, and Charlotte felt the air leave her lungs. "Mr. Montgomery," she gasped, trying to sit up without disturbing Luna, who had curled against her side. "I'm so sorry. I can explain." He held up a hand, silencing her. His expression was unreadable as he moved into the room, his steps silent on the plush carpet. Charlotte's heart hammered against her ribs as he approached the bed, expecting anger, dismissal, disappointment. Instead, his eyes softened as they fell on Luna, peaceful in sleep, clutching both her teddy bear and Charlotte's sleeve. Something passed across his features, regret perhaps, or longing. "She wanted to wait for you," Charlotte whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I should have taken her back to her room, I know, but she was so determined." Theodore's gaze returned to her face, and Charlotte felt heat rise in her cheeks. She'd never been this close to him before, never seen the flecks of silver in his blue eyes or the slight shadow of stubble along his jaw. He studied her with an intensity that made her skin tingle. "How often does she do this?" he asked, his deep voice barely above a whisper. "Try to wait up for you?" Charlotte gathered her courage. "Every night, Mr. Montgomery," He flinched slightly at her words, and Charlotte instantly regretted her honesty. But instead of anger, she saw something else flash across his face. Vulnerability, so brief she might have imagined it. To her absolute shock, Theodore moved to the leather armchair near the bed, sinking into it with elegant exhaustion. He loosened his tie further, never taking his eyes off the scene before him. His daughter and her nanny caught in a moment of forbidden intimacy in his private sanctuary. "Stay," he said quietly, the word somewhere between a command and a request. Moving her now would only wake her. Charlotte's pulse jumped. "Sir, I should really—" "Please." The word seemed to surprise them both. Theodore Montgomery didn't say please. He gave orders, made demands, closed billion-dollar deals with a single nod. But here, in the shadows of his bedroom, watching his daughter sleep peacefully for the first time in months, he said please. Charlotte settled back against the pillows, hyper-aware of his presence, of the way his gaze seemed to caress her face in the dim light. She told herself it was just her imagination, just the lateness of the hour and the intimacy of the setting playing tricks with her mind. But as she drifted back to sleep, she could have sworn she heard him murmur, "I never knew what I was missing." When morning came, it would bring complications, questions, and the cold light of reality. But for now, in this stolen moment, 3 lonely hearts beat in perfect sync, and the vast Montgomery mansion felt, for the first time, like home. Charlotte woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the distinct feeling that something had changed. The events of the previous night crashed over her in waves. Luna's plea, falling asleep in the master bedroom, Theodore's unexpected return. She sat up quickly, her heart racing, but found herself alone in the massive bed. A note rested on the nightstand, written in bold, precise handwriting. "Had an early meeting. Luna's still asleep in her room. I moved her this morning. We should discuss last night. My office, 7 p.m. TM." Charlotte's stomach twisted. In the harsh light of day, sleeping in her employer's bed seemed like career suicide. She could already imagine the whispers among the household staff, the knowing looks, the assumptions. Working for the wealthy had taught her that reputation was everything, and she'd just risked hers completely. Slipping out of the bedroom, she hurried to her own quarters to shower and change. As she dressed in her usual professional attire, a knee-length navy dress and practical flats, she tried to prepare herself for the worst. Best case scenario, a formal reprimand. Worst case, immediate dismissal. The day passed in a blur of routine activities. Luna was unusually quiet during breakfast, pushing her scrambled eggs around the plate. "Is something wrong, sweetie?" Charlotte asked, brushing the little girl's unruly curls back from her face. Luna looked up with eyes identical to her father's. "Did Daddy really come home last night? I thought I felt him carry me to my room, but maybe I dreamed it." "He did come home," Charlotte confirmed softly. "And yes, he carried you to bed this morning." A small smile bloomed on Luna's face. "He kissed my forehead too. He hasn't done that in forever." Charlotte's heart squeezed. She'd witnessed countless moments of Luna's longing for her father's attention, but last night seemed to have sparked something different. The Theodore Montgomery who had stood in that doorway, who had whispered please in the darkness, was not the same man who strode through board meetings with ice in his veins. The household staff definitely noticed something had shifted. Mrs. Reynolds, the housekeeper, watched Charlotte with narrowed eyes during lunch preparation. Peter, the chauffeur, seemed to hover whenever Charlotte passed through the garage area. Even Luna's tutor, Dr. Chen, raised an eyebrow when Theodore called during their morning lesson, something he'd never done before. At precisely 6:55 p.m., Charlotte stood outside Theodore's home office, her pulse thundering in her ears. She'd rehearsed her apology a dozen times, prepared her defense, and even updated her resume, just in case. But nothing could have prepared her for what she found behind that heavy oak door. Theodore sat not at his imposing desk, but in one of the leather armchairs by the fireplace. His suit jacket was draped over the back of the chair, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. He looked less like a CEO and more like a man wrestling with something beyond spreadsheets and profit margins. "Miss Evans," he said, gesturing to the chair opposite his. "Please sit." Charlotte perched on the edge of the seat, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Mr. Montgomery, about last night." "I've been reviewing your employment record," he interrupted, reaching for a folder on the side table. 6 months with us. Exemplary references from your previous positions. A degree in child development. Fluent in 3 languages. "Yes, sir," she managed, thrown by this unexpected direction. "Luna's grades have improved significantly since you arrived. Her anxiety attacks have decreased. She's sleeping through the night more often." He closed the folder, fixing her with that intense blue stare. "You've been exactly what she needed." Charlotte swallowed hard. "Thank you, sir. Luna is an amazing child." "She is." A muscle worked in his jaw. "And I've been failing her." "Mr. Montgomery." "Theodore," he corrected softly. "After last night, I think we can dispense with some formalities." Heat crept up Charlotte's neck. "Theodore," she tested the name, watching his eyes darken slightly. "You're not failing, Luna. You're running a massive company, dealing with responsibilities I can't even imagine. At the expense of my daughter." He stood abruptly, moving to the window. The setting sun painted his profile in gold and shadow. "Do you know what I realized last night seeing you two together? I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen her sleep so peacefully." Charlotte remained silent, watching him wage some internal battle. "I've kept my distance," he continued. "Convinced myself it was better to focus on securing her future than being present for her now. But watching you with her..." He turned, and the raw emotion in his expression stole her breath. "You've given her what I couldn't." "That's not true," Charlotte protested, rising from her chair. "Luna adores you. She just wants to be part of your world." "And you?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with unspoken meaning. "What do you want, Charlotte?" Her name on his lips sent shivers down her spine. They stood mere feet apart, the air crackling with something dangerous and electric. Charlotte knew she should maintain professional distance, should remember all the reasons this was impossible. But the vulnerability in his eyes pulled at something deep in her chest. "I want," she began, then faltered. What did she want? To keep her job? To protect her heart? To give in to the magnetic pull drawing her toward this complicated man? A knock at the door shattered the moment. Mrs. Reynolds entered with a stack of mail, her shrewd eyes taking in their proximity, before Theodore stepped smoothly behind his desk. "That will be all, Miss Evans," he said, his CEO mask sliding perfectly back into place. "Thank you for your time." Charlotte nodded, turning to leave on unsteady legs. But at the doorway she paused. "Luna asked me to remind you about her science fair next week, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Something flickered in Theodore's eyes. "Tuesday at 3, he repeated. "I'll be there." It wasn't until she was safely back in her room that Charlotte allowed herself to process what had just happened. The meeting hadn't been about reprimands or dismissal. It had been about something far more dangerous. The crumbling of carefully constructed walls, the acknowledgement of needs long denied, the spark of possibilities that could either warm them or burn everything to the ground. As she prepared for bed, Charlotte caught her reflection in the mirror. She looked different somehow. Eyes brighter, cheeks flushed, as if something dormant had awakened inside her. Last night had changed everything, but this evening's conversation had done something even more profound. It had made her hope. Across the mansion, in his private study, Theodore Montgomery stood at the window, watching the stars emerge. In his hand he held Luna's latest drawing, 3 figures standing together labeled in childish scrawl: Daddy, me, and Charlotte. A family portrait that spoke of his daughter's deepest wish, and increasingly, his own. He had built his empire on control, on never letting emotion cloud his judgment. But watching Charlotte leave his office, seeing the gentle sway of her hips and the quiet dignity in her bearing, he recognized the fatal flaw in his strategy. Some things weren't meant to be controlled. Some things were meant to be felt. The BR Science Fair banner hung proudly across the elementary school gymnasium, surrounded by dozens of child-made projects. Charlotte helped Luna adjust her volcano model one last time, watching the clock tick steadily toward 3 p.m. The little girl hadn't stopped talking about her father's promise to attend, and Charlotte prayed Theodore wouldn't disappoint her. "Do you think he'll like it?" Luna asked, smoothing her dress for the 100th time. She'd insisted on wearing her best outfit, a powder blue dress that matched her eyes perfectly. "He'll love it," Charlotte assured her, though her own stomach churned with anxiety. Since their intense conversation in his office 4 days ago, Theodore had been surprisingly present, showing up for dinner twice, reading Luna a bedtime story, even joining them for Sunday breakfast. But a science fair in the middle of a workday? That would be the real test. At 2:55 p.m., Luna's face fell as she watched other parents filter into the gymnasium. Charlotte squeezed her shoulder gently. "There's still time, sweetie." "He's not coming, is he?" Luna's bottom lip trembled. "He probably has another meeting." Charlotte opened her mouth to respond when a ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. Theodore Montgomery strode through, the gymnasium doors commanding attention in his perfectly tailored charcoal suit. But it wasn't his impressive presence that caught Charlotte's eye. It was the slightly disheveled hair and the way he was slightly out of breath, as if he'd rushed to make it on time. "Daddy!" Luna launched herself at him, and to Charlotte's amazement, Theodore caught her in a full embrace, seemingly unconcerned about wrinkling his expensive suit. "Sorry I'm almost late, princess," he said, setting her down carefully. "Traffic was terrible, but I wouldn't miss this for anything." The pure joy on Luna's face made Charlotte's heart swell. She tried to step back, to give father and daughter their moment, but Theodore's eyes found hers over Luna's head. "Miss Evans," he acknowledged, his voice carrying that same warmth that had colored their office conversation. "I hope you'll join us for Luna's presentation." Before she could respond, a sharp voice cut through the moment. "Theodore Montgomery, as I live and breathe." A stunning woman in a designer dress approached them, her high heels clicking against the gymnasium floor. Her presence seemed to drop the temperature several degrees, and Charlotte noticed Theodore's spine stiffen. "Helena," he said coolly, "I wasn't aware you were back in town." "Oh, I've been back for weeks," Helena purred, her perfectly manicured hand coming to rest on Theodore's arm. "I've been meaning to call, but you know how it is, readjusting to life here after Paris." Charlotte felt Luna press against her leg, suddenly shy. The little girl's reaction told her everything she needed to know about this woman. And who might this be? Helena's gaze slid to Charlotte, assessment sharp in her green eyes. "This is Miss Evans, Luna's nanny," Theodore replied, his tone neutral but his eyes conveying something else entirely as they met Charlotte's. "She's been instrumental in preparing Luna for today's presentation." Helena's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. "A nanny? Really, Theodore, I thought we discussed this. Luna needs a mother figure, not hired help." Luna's fingers dug into Charlotte's skirt. Theodore's jaw clenched, but before he could respond, a teacher announced the start of presentations. "That's our cue," Charlotte said brightly, deliberately breaking the tension. "Luna, why don't you show your father and Ms. Sterling?" Helena supplied icily. "Helena Sterling. Theodore and I were engaged before his unfortunate marriage." The calculated cruelty of the comment hung in the air. Charlotte felt Theodore go rigid beside her, but she kept her focus on Luna. "Show us how your volcano works, sweetie," she encouraged, leading them to the display table. Luna's presentation was perfect. She explained the chemical reaction with confidence, her earlier joy somewhat dampened but still present as she demonstrated the eruption. Theodore watched with genuine interest, asking questions and praising her work. Helena stood slightly apart, her attention more focused on Theodore than the child's achievement. When the presentations ended, Helena made her move. "We simply must catch up properly, Theodore. Dinner tonight, for old time's sake?" Theodore's response was interrupted by Luna tugging at his sleeve. "But Daddy, you promised we'd have celebration. Ice cream. You, me, and Charlotte, you said." Charlotte hadn't heard about any such promise, but the panic in Luna's voice was unmistakable. Theodore looked between his daughter and his ex-fiancée, something resolute settling in his expression. I did promise and I intend to keep it. Helena, I'm afraid I'll have to decline, perhaps another time. Helena's perfect smile faltered slightly. Of course. Family first, right? Though I must say, Theodore, it's rather inappropriate to include the help in family celebrations. Miss Evans is family, Luna declared with surprising force, wrapping her arms around Charlotte's waist. She takes care of us and makes Daddy smile again. The gymnasium seemed to hold its breath. Charlotte felt heat rise in her cheeks as Theodore's gaze locked with hers, intense and unguarded. Helena's eyes narrowed dangerously. Well, she said, her tone sharp as glass. How sweet. I'll be in touch, Theodore. We have much to discuss. As Helena clicked away, Luna's grip on Charlotte loosened. I don't like her, she whispered. She used to make Mommy cry. Theodore knelt down to Luna's level, his expression serious. You don't have to worry about Miss Sterling, Princess. Now about that ice cream, I believe we have a celebration to attend? The local ice cream parlor was nearly empty when they arrived, the afternoon sun casting long shadows through its windows. Luna insisted on sitting in a booth, positioning herself so that Charlotte and Theodore had to sit next to each other. The proximity was maddening. Every accidental brush of their arms sent electricity through Charlotte's skin. You handled Helena beautifully, Theodore murmured while Luna was distracted by her hot fudge sundae. Most people either cower or try to challenge her directly. Charlotte stirred her vanilla bean ice cream thoughtfully. I've learned that the best response to cruelty is often kindness. Besides, today was about Luna. Everything is about Luna, he agreed, then added softly. But not everything is only about Luna. The weight of his words settled between them, heavy with possibility. Charlotte forced herself to maintain composure, though her heart raced. Mr. Montgomery. Theodore, he corrected again, his thigh pressing slightly against hers under the table. Theodore, she conceded, her voice barely above a whisper. We should be careful. The staff is already talking, and now with Miss Sterling back, let them talk. His hand found hers beneath the table, his thumb tracing patterns on her palm that sent shivers up her arm. I've spent too many years being careful, Charlotte. Watching you with Luna, seeing how you've brought life back into our home. It's made me question everything I thought I knew about what's important. Daddy, Charlotte, look, Luna interrupted, chocolate sauce smeared adorably around her mouth. I made a smiley face with my sprinkles. The moment broke, but the warmth of Theodore's touch lingered on Charlotte's skin. As they drove home, Luna fell asleep in the back seat, clutching her science fair ribbon. In the intimate darkness of the car, Charlotte felt Theodore's gaze on her profile. Thank you, he said quietly, for giving me the courage to show up. Today. Charlotte turned to him surprised. I didn't. You did. You make me want to be better. For Luna. For myself. He paused, then added in a lower voice, for you. That night, as Charlotte lay in her bed, she replayed the day's events. Helena Sterling's return complicated everything, but it was Theodore's words that kept echoing in her mind. She was playing with fire, she knew. But as she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't help but think that some things were worth getting burned for. Across the mansion, Theodore stood at his window, Helena's threatening words from a hurried phone call ringing in his ears. You're making a mistake, Theodore. Don't forget who knows all your secrets. He looked down at Luna's science fair ribbon in his hands and made a decision. No more secrets. No more careful distance. Some things were worth fighting for, and he was finally ready for battle. The high morning paper landed on Theodore's desk with a damning thud. Mrs. Reynolds's lips were pressed into a thin line as she pointed to the society page. There in full color was a photo of their ice cream parlor celebration, accompanied by the headline, Montgomery's New Family Dynamic? CEO spotted with daughter and mystery woman. Theodore scanned the article, his jaw tightening with each word. The piece was carefully worded but loaded with insinuation, painting Charlotte as an ambitious social climber who had integrated herself into the wealthy widower's household. "The staff is talking, sir," Mrs. Reynolds said, her voice tight with concern. "And I've already had to turn away 3 reporters from the gate this morning. Have they bothered Charlotte?" The edge in his voice made the housekeeper step back slightly. "Not yet, but ensure it stays that way." Theodore stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "And Mrs. Reynolds? Remind the staff that discretion is part of their employment contract." After she left, Theodore sank back into his chair, running a hand through his dark hair. The photo caught his eye again. The way he was looking at Charlotte, the softness in his expression as she helped Luna with her ice cream. It was all there in black and white, his carefully guarded heart exposed for the world to see. His phone buzzed with a text from Helena. "Saw the paper, dinner tonight, non-negotiable, LeBlanc, 8 p.m. Across the mansion, Charlotte was dealing with her own crisis. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from her mother in Boston, and her social media had exploded with friend requests from strangers. Even Luna's morning routine was disrupted by the chaos. "Why are there people with cameras outside?" Luna asked, peering through her bedroom window as Charlotte helped her dress for school. "They're just being silly," Charlotte assured her, though her own heart was racing. "Now let's focus on getting ready. You have that spelling test today, remember?" But Luna's perceptive blue eyes, so like her father's, caught Charlotte's tension. "Is it because of the ice cream? Are they mad that we're happy?" Charlotte's throat tightened. "No, sweetie. Some people just like to make up stories about your daddy because he's important. But you don't need to worry about that." "Charlotte?" Luna's voice was small. "You won't leave because of them, will you? Like Mommy did?" The question knocked the breath from Charlotte's lungs. She knelt before Luna, taking her tiny hands. "Listen to me, I'm not going anywhere. No matter what anyone says or writes, okay?" Luna nodded, but the fear lingered in her eyes. Charlotte hugged her close, wondering how she could keep that promise when the world seemed determined to tear them apart. The morning passed in a blur of routine activities, though nothing felt routine anymore. Charlotte caught whispers from the staff, saw the way they watched her every move. By afternoon, she needed escape and took Luna to the mansion's indoor pool for her swimming lesson. The water had always been Charlotte's sanctuary. As Luna practiced her strokes with the instructor, Charlotte sat at the pool's edge, letting her feet dangle in the cool water. She didn't hear Theodore approach until his reflection appeared beside her in the pool's surface. "I'm sorry about the paper," he said quietly, rolling up his sleeves and sitting beside her. His presence sent ripples through the water and through her composure. "It's not your fault." Charlotte kept her eyes on Luna, afraid of what he might see in them. "But maybe we should be more careful. For Luna's sake." "Look at me," Theodore commanded softly. When she did, the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. "I've spent years being careful. Years putting everyone else's expectations before my own happiness, before Luna's happiness." "Theodore?" "No." He cut her off gently. "Let me finish. Helena's back because she thinks she can control me with old secrets. The press is circling because they smell a story. The staff is whispering because they don't understand. But for the first time in years, I know exactly what I want." His hand found hers at the pool's edge, their fingers intertwining underwater where no one could see. The touch sent electricity through Charlotte's body. "And what is that?" She whispered. "You. Us. This family we're building." His thumb traced patterns on her wrist. "Luna hasn't had a panic attack in months. She's sleeping through the night. She's laughing again, and it's not just her. You've woken something in me that I thought died with her mother's betrayal." Charlotte's heart thundered in her chest. "It's complicated. Life is complicated," he agreed. "But some things are simple. The way Luna lights up when you enter a room, the way you challenge me to be better, the way I can't stop thinking about you even when I'm supposed to be focused on million-dollar deals." A splash and giggle from the pool interrupted them. Luna was beaming, having successfully completed a lap. "Daddy, Charlotte, did you see?" "Amazing job, princess," Theodore called back, his smile genuine and warm. To Charlotte, he whispered, "I have to meet Helena tonight. She's threatening to reveal something about Luna's mother, something she thinks will destroy me." Charlotte's grip on his hand tightened. "Will it?" "No," he said firmly. "Because the truth is, I'm done letting the past control my future. Whatever she thinks she knows, it can't change what matters now." "And what matters now?" Theodore's response was interrupted by Luna splashing over to them, proud and dripping wet. "Can we have dinner together tonight, please?" "Daddy has a meeting, sweetie," Charlotte started, but Theodore shook his head. "The meeting won't take long," he assured them both. "How about a late dessert instead, all three of us in the kitchen like a proper family?" Luna's face lit up, but Charlotte felt a tremor of uncertainty. "Are you sure that's wise with the press?" "Let me worry about the press." Theodore stood, helping Charlotte to her feet. Their bodies were close, too close for propriety, but neither moved away. "Just promise you'll both wait up for me." That evening, as Charlotte helped Luna with her homework, she couldn't shake her nerves about Theodore's meeting with Helena. The woman clearly had an agenda, and Charlotte had seen enough of the wealthy elite to know how dangerous wounded pride could be. "Charlotte?" Luna's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "Can we make cookies for when Daddy comes home? The ones with chocolate chips?" Looking at Luna's hopeful face, Charlotte made a decision. She wouldn't let fear of scandal or Helena's threats rob this child of another chance at happiness. They would make cookies, and they would wait up for Theodore, and they would face whatever came together. "Of course we can, sweetie, and you know what? I think Daddy could use some extra chocolate chips tonight." As they measured flour and cracked eggs, Charlotte silently prayed that Theodore's meeting wouldn't shatter the delicate happiness they'd begun to build. But even if it did, she knew one thing with absolute certainty: she would fight for Luna's smile with everything she had. Across town, Theodore walked into LeBlanc, his jaw set with determination. Helena Sterling might think she held all the cards, but she had forgotten one crucial detail. Theodore Montgomery had nothing left to lose. His heart, which he'd guarded so carefully for so long, was already lost to the woman who had brought his daughter back to life. And that, he realized, made him more dangerous than Helena could possibly imagine. LeBlanc's private dining room felt like a battlefield. Helena Sterling sat across from Theodore, her blood-red dress a stark contrast to the white tablecloth between them. She hadn't touched her wine, preferring instead to savor the power she thought she held. "You've changed, Theodore," she observed, her perfectly manicured finger tracing the rim of her glass. "The man I knew would never have allowed himself to be photographed in an ice cream parlor with the help." "The man you knew was a fool," Theodore replied evenly. "Now, what exactly do you want, Helena?" She smiled, a predatory flash of white teeth. "Direct as ever. Very well." She reached into her designer handbag and withdrew an envelope. "I recently had a fascinating conversation with Olivia." Theodore's hand tightened on his water glass. The mention of Luna's mother sent ice through his veins. "Imagine my surprise," Helena continued, "when she told me the real reason she left. It wasn't just the pressure of being Mrs. Montgomery, was it? It was what she discovered about Luna's true parentage." Theodore's expression remained impassive, but his mind raced. "And what exactly did Olivia tell you?" "That the great Theodore Montgomery isn't Luna's biological father." Helena's eyes glittered with triumph. "That she had an affair, and when she realized she was pregnant, she trapped you into marriage. You discovered the truth just before she left, didn't you? But you kept it quiet, raised Luna as your own. How noble." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, unexpectedly, Theodore laughed. "Is something amusing?" Helena's smile faltered slightly. "You are." Theodore leaned forward. "Did you really think I didn't know? That I hadn't already done the DNA test years ago? That I would love Luna any less because of it?" Helena's composure cracked. "But I've known since Luna was 2. Theodore's voice was steel wrapped in silk. And do you know what I did when I found out? I called my lawyers and made sure my will was ironclad. Luna is my daughter in every way that matters. Biology is irrelevant. The press, Theodore cut in, would love to hear how the respected Helena Sterling attempted to blackmail a single father using his child as leverage. How does that align with your charitable foundation's family first message? Color drained from Helena's face. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Theodore stood, buttoning his jacket. You're right about one thing, Helena. I have changed. The man you knew would have paid you off, would have done anything to avoid scandal. But that man didn't know what real family felt like. He placed his napkin on the table and leaned down, his voice low and dangerous. Stay away from my daughter. Stay away from Charlotte. Whatever we had ended years ago, and if you come after my family again, you'll learn exactly how much I've changed. Back at the mansion, Charlotte was helping Luna arrange freshly baked cookies on a plate when Mrs. Reynolds appeared in the kitchen doorway. Miss Evans? The housekeeper's voice was tight. A moment? In the hallway, Mrs. Reynolds handed her a thick envelope. This was delivered for you. The messenger was insistent. Charlotte opened it with trembling fingers. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Her leaving various houses late at night, children in tow. Her embracing different men in doorways. Out of context, the images of her saying goodbye to her previous employers looked damning. A note fell out. Leave now quietly or these find their way to the board of Montgomery Industries. They'll never believe you're not a gold digger. H. Charlotte's legs went weak. She knew exactly how these photos would look to people who didn't understand her work, her dedication to the families she helped. The cookies are ready, Luna called from the kitchen. Can we wait for Daddy in the family room? Charlotte squared her shoulders, crumpling the note in her fist. Mrs. Reynolds, could you help Luna get settled? I need a moment. She hurried to her room, mind racing. The photos weren't compromising. She had nothing to be ashamed of. But Helena clearly knew how to spin a story. The society papers would have a field day. Nanny's sordid past revealed. Her phone buzzed with a text from Theodore. On my way home. Everything okay? Charlotte stared at the message, tears burning her eyes. She had two choices: run and protect Theodore and Luna from scandal, or stay and fight. Before she could decide, another text came through. I chose us. Tonight. I'll always choose us. The simple message shattered something inside her. Hands shaking, she dialed the number she'd been avoiding all day. Mom, I need your help. Remember those recommendations you wrote for my previous families? Can you have them ready to email? 20 minutes later, Charlotte descended the stairs to find Theodore in the family room. Luna curled against his side as he read her a story. He looked up when she entered and his expression softened. I saved you cookies, Luna announced proudly. The ones with extra chocolate chips. Charlotte sat beside them, hyper-aware of Theodore's questioning gaze. When Luna was absorbed in the story, he whispered, Helena sent something? She nodded slightly, not trusting her voice. His free hand found hers, squeezing gently. We'll handle it. Together. I have proof, she whispered back. Letters from every family I've worked for. My mother's keeping them safe. I never doubted you. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Helena tried to use Luna against me tonight. She thought knowing I wasn't her biological father would destroy me. Charlotte's heart stopped. Theodore, I've known for years, he said softly, looking at Luna with pure love. It never mattered. Family isn't about blood, it's about choice, and I choose this every day. Luna looked up from her book. Choose what, Daddy? Us. Princess. He pulled her closer. I choose us. Later that night, after Luna was asleep, Charlotte and Theodore sat in his study. The photos from Helena lay scattered across his desk alongside glowing letters of recommendation from Charlotte's previous employers. She'll try again, Charlotte warned. The press. Let them come. Theodore gathered the photos into a pile. I'm tired of living in fear of scandal. Luna deserves better. We all do. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having is. He moved to stand before her chair. Charlotte, when Olivia left, she told me I'd never know how to love properly, that I was too focused on control, on appearances. She was right, back then. But you. He knelt down, taking her hands in his. You've shown me what real family feels like, what real love looks like. Charlotte's heart thundered. Theodore. I know it's fast, he continued. I know. The timing is terrible with Helena and the press circling, but I'm done pretending I'm not falling in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, charged with possibility and danger. Charlotte knew they were standing on a precipice. One step could send them soaring or crashing down. Luna asked me today if I would leave like her mother did, she whispered. I promised her I wouldn't. And I promised myself I'd never be vulnerable again. Theodore's smile was gentle. Some promises are meant to be broken. Others. His hand cupped her cheek. Others become the foundation of something stronger. In the soft lamplight of his study, with threats and photos scattered around them, Charlotte made her choice. She leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, a question and an answer wrapped in one. Then Theodore's, arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer, and gentleness gave way to years of loneliness and longing. When they finally parted, both breathless, Theodore rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he whispered. Fight with me. Build this family. With me. Charlotte thought of Luna's smile, of Theodore's quiet strength, of the home they were creating together. Yes, she breathed against his lips. Yes, to all of it. Outside the study window, a camera flash went unnoticed. Tomorrow would bring new headlines, new battles. But tonight, in the warmth of Theodore's embrace, Charlotte knew they could weather any storm. Family, after all, was about choice, and they had chosen each other. The headlines splashed across every major news outlet. By morning, Montgomery's midnight romance, CEO caught in passionate embrace with children's nanny. The accompanying photo, grainy but unmistakable, showed their kiss through the study window. Theodore's phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. The board members, shareholders, and PR team all demanded immediate attention. But his focus was elsewhere, specifically on the closed door of Charlotte's room, where she hadn't emerged since seeing the news. Mr. Montgomery? Peter, the chauffeur, approached cautiously. The car's ready for Miss Luna's school run, but Theodore followed Peter's gaze to the mansion's gates where a crowd of reporters had gathered. Their camera flashes created a strobe light effect even in the morning sun. Cancel it, Theodore decided. Call the school. Luna's staying home today. He found his daughter in the kitchen, still in her uniform, watching Mrs. Reynolds prepare breakfast with unusual quietness. Princess? Theodore sat beside her. How about a day off school? We could watch movies, maybe swim in the indoor pool. Luna's blue eyes, usually so bright, were clouded with worry. Is it because of the people with cameras? Are they mad at Charlotte? Theodore's heart clenched. No, sweetheart, they're just curious about our family. But we're happy now, Luna protested. Why can't they leave us alone? Before Theodore could respond, Charlotte appeared in the doorway. She wore a simple blue dress, her honey blonde hair pulled back, chin held high despite the shadows under her eyes. Theodore's breath caught at the sight of her. Even now, facing scandal, she carried herself with quiet dignity. Good morning, she said softly, managing a smile for Luna. Mrs. Reynolds busied herself with the coffee maker, but her disapproving presence filled the kitchen. The headlines had clearly affected the staff's perception of Charlotte. I should resign, Charlotte said quietly, once Luna was distracted by her breakfast. The board. No. Theodore's response was immediate and firm. I'm meeting with them at noon. This ends today. Charlotte's fingers twisted in her lap. I received 3 more envelopes this morning. More photos, more threats. Helena's determined to paint me as someone who cares deeply about children, who builds relationships with families, who helps a broken man remember how to love. Theodore reached for her hand under the table. Let her try. Luna's voice cut through their whispered conversation. Can we have a family day? Since I'm not going to school? The word family hung in the air, weighted with meaning. Charlotte looked at Theodore, a question in her eyes. He squeezed her hand in response. Actually, he said, I need to go to the office for a few hours, but after that, he looked between them, his expression softening. After that, we need to talk, all of us, about our future. The Montgomery Industries boardroom felt colder than usual. 12 stern faces stared at Theodore from around the massive table, with Helena Sterling seated strategically at the far end, her expression triumphant. This is a disaster, Richard Coleman, the head of the board, declared. Our stock has already dropped 3 points. The media is having a field day, and now we hear rumors about question marks over Luna's parentage? Manufactured rumors, Theodore corrected smoothly, spread by someone with a personal vendetta. Helena's smile didn't waver. I'm only here as a concerned friend, Theodore. The board deserved to know what kind of situation they're dealing with. Indeed. Theodore opened his laptop. Speaking of situations, I've spent the morning preparing a few presentations. First, a complete background check on Charlotte Evans, including glowing recommendations from every family she's worked with, her child development degree, and her spotless record. He clicked through professional photos of Charlotte with various families, all properly dated and documented. The compromising photos being circulated are simply Charlotte saying goodbye to her previous employers. Every family has provided a statement confirming this. Helena's smile flickered. Theodore continued. Next, documentation of recent attempts at blackmail, including texts and emails. My security team has been quite thorough in tracing their origin. This is ridiculous. Helena stood abruptly. We're not here to discuss me. We're here because your inappropriate relationship with a servant is threatening the company's reputation. Charlotte is not a servant, Theodore's voice cut like steel. She's a qualified childcare professional who has helped my daughter overcome severe anxiety and abandonment issues. Issues, I might add, that stemmed from toxic influences in her early life. He turned to the board. I won't deny my feelings for Charlotte, but I will remind you that my personal life has never affected my ability to run this company. Under my leadership, our profits have doubled. Our market share has expanded globally, and our reputation for integrity is unmatched. Richard Coleman shifted uncomfortably. The shareholders will be pleased to know that since Charlotte joined our household, I've been more focused, more productive, and more present in the office. Having stability at home, having someone I trust completely with Luna, has allowed me to better serve this company. Theodore stood, buttoning his jacket. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a family waiting for me. Oh, and Helena. He paused at the door. The next time you try to threaten someone I love, remember, I didn't become CEO by being naive. The evidence of your blackmail attempt has already been forwarded to the relevant authorities. The drive home felt longer than usual, Theodore's mind racing with possibilities. He'd taken a stand, but the consequences were still unfolding. When he finally pulled into the mansion's driveway, he found Charlotte and Luna in the garden, protected from prying eyes by the high hedges. They had created a makeshift picnic, complete with sandwiches and Luna's favorite cookies. The sight of them together, Charlotte helping Luna arrange flowers in a small vase, both laughing at some private joke, made his chest tight with emotion. Daddy! Luna spotted him first, running to hug him. We made you lunch. And Charlotte taught me about different kinds of clouds. That one looks like a dragon. She pointed skyward. Theodore scooped her up, breathing in her familiar scent of sunshine and chocolate chip cookies. Over her head, his eyes met Charlotte's. How bad was it? She asked softly. Nothing we can't handle. He set Luna down. Actually, I think it's time for that talk about our future. Luna's eyes widened. Are we moving? Please don't make us move. No, princess. Theodore led them back to the picnic blanket. But some things might change. Good changes, I hope. He sat cross-legged, on the blanket, pulling Luna into his lap. Charlotte settled beside them, her presence both calming and electrifying. You know how you've been asking for a real family, Theodore began carefully. Not just you and me, but like with Charlotte? Luna's voice was full of hope. Exactly, like with Charlotte. Theodore reached for Charlotte's hand, if that's what she wants too. Charlotte's eyes filled with tears. But the press, the board, they don't matter, Theodore said firmly. What matters is right here, this family we've built, these feelings we can't deny. Luna's happiness, our happiness. Luna looked between them, her small face serious. Does this mean Charlotte will stay forever? Really forever? Charlotte squeezed Theodore's hand. Is that what you want, sweetie? More than anything, Luna whispered. You make Daddy smile, you make the nightmares go away, you make us whole. A tear slipped down Charlotte's cheek. You both make me whole too. Theodore pulled them both close, there in the secret garden, with thunderclouds gathering overhead. Let the storm come, he thought. They would weather it together. Because some things, like the way Charlotte's head fit perfectly against his shoulder, or how Luna's laughter sounded when she was truly happy, or the feeling of finally being complete, were worth any storm. The first drops of rain began to fall, but none of them moved to go inside. Instead, they held each other tighter, 3 hearts beating as one, while the world beyond the garden faded into insignificance. They had chosen their path. Together, they would walk it to the end. The call came at midnight. Charlotte woke to urgent knocking on her bedroom door, finding Mrs. Reynolds in her robe, face pale with concern. It's Luna, the housekeeper whispered. She's having a severe panic attack. Mr. Montgomery is still at the emergency board meeting and we can't reach him. Charlotte was already moving, her heart racing. She found Luna in her bedroom, curled into a tight ball, her breathing ragged and shallow. The little girl's face was streaked with tears, her whole body trembling. Luna, sweetheart. Charlotte approached slowly, keeping her voice soft. I'm here. Can you look at me? Luna's tear-filled eyes found hers. They're taking Daddy away, she choked out between gasps. Like Mommy did. Everything's going to change again. No one is taking your father anywhere, Charlotte assured her, sitting on the edge of the bed. Remember our breathing exercise like the ocean waves? She demonstrated the deep breathing technique they'd practiced, and slowly, Luna began to match her rhythm. As the little girl's breathing steadied, Charlotte gathered her into her arms, rocking gently. I heard Mrs. Reynolds talking, Luna whispered against Charlotte's shoulder. She said the board might make Daddy step down. Because of us. Because of you. Charlotte's stomach clenched, but she kept her voice steady. Your father is the strongest person I know, and do you know what makes him strong? Luna shook her head. His love for you. Nothing, not the board, not the press, not anyone, can change that. Promise? I promise. Charlotte kissed the top of her head. Now, how about some hot chocolate? In the kitchen, as Charlotte warmed milk on the stove, Luna perched on a counter stool, looking small and vulnerable in her butterfly pajamas. The house felt eerily quiet at this hour, with most of the staff gone home. Can you tell me the story again? Luna asked, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. About how you and Daddy fell in love? Charlotte smiled, remembering that first night in Theodore's bedroom. Well, it started with a very determined little girl who wouldn't go to sleep. She was halfway through the story when they heard the front door open. Theodore appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking exhausted but relieved to find them together. Daddy! Luna launched herself into his arms. Princess, he held her tight, meeting Charlotte's eyes over Luna's head. I'm sorry I wasn't here. It's okay, Luna mumbled into his shirt. Charlotte helped. She always helps. Theodore's expression softened as he looked at Charlotte, still in her nightgown, with her hair loose around her shoulders. Yes, she does. Once Luna was back, in bed finally sleeping peacefully, Theodore led Charlotte to his study. The tension in his shoulders told her the board meeting hadn't gone well. "They're voting tomorrow," he said without preamble, pouring himself a scotch, "on whether to force me out." Charlotte's heart sank. "Because of me?" "No." Theodore set his glass down firmly. "Because Helena convinced enough shareholders that my personal life is affecting the company's stability. She's been planning this for months, waiting for the right moment to strike. What can we do?" "I have a plan." He ran a hand through his dark hair. "But you're not going to like it." Before he could continue, his phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the message. "What is it?" "Olivia," he said, his voice tight. "Luna's mother. She's back in town, and she's filing for custody." Charlotte felt the room spin. "She can't. She abandoned Luna. She has no rights." "Legally, she does. And with the current scandal?" Theodore's hands clenched into fists. "Helena must have contacted her. They're working together." "To destroy you?" "To destroy us." He moved to the window, staring out at the dark gardens. "The board meeting, the custody threat, it's all calculated. They know my weaknesses." Charlotte approached him slowly. "Luna isn't a weakness. Our love isn't a weakness." He turned to her, his blue eyes fierce. "No, they're my strength, which is why I need you to leave." The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" "Just temporarily," he added quickly, reaching for her hands. "I need you to take Luna and go somewhere safe, somewhere they can't find you, while I deal with this." "Theodore, no, listen to me." His grip tightened. "Olivia is dangerous. She's unstable. If she gets even temporary custody while this plays out..." Understanding dawned. "You want us to run?" "I want you safe. Both of you." He cupped her face in his hands. "I have a house, off the grid, in the mountains of Vermont. No one knows about it except my most trusted lawyer. You'll be protected there." "For how long?" "A few weeks at most. Just until I can gather enough evidence against Helena and Olivia, until I can ensure the board sees the truth." His thumbs brushed her cheeks. "I know I'm asking too much." Charlotte thought of Luna's panic attack, of the fear in her eyes. "You're asking me to protect our daughter?" Theodore's breath caught at the word "our." "Yes." "Then it's not too much." She leaned into his touch. "But promise me something." "Anything." "Promise you won't let them win. Promise you'll fight for us, all of us." His kiss was fierce and desperate. "With everything I have." The next few hours passed in a blur of quiet preparation. Charlotte packed essentials while Theodore made arrangements. By dawn, a trusted security team was ready to escort them to Vermont. Luna took the news of their adventure better than expected, especially when Theodore promised to join them as soon as he could. But as they prepared to leave, she clung to him with unexpected strength. "You'll come soon?" she whispered. "You won't forget about us?" Theodore knelt to her level. "Never. You and Charlotte are my whole world. I'll be there before you know it." Charlotte watched them embrace, her heart breaking and swelling simultaneously. When Theodore turned to her, his eyes held a storm of emotions. "I love you," he said simply. "Both of you. Remember that." "We love you too," Charlotte whispered. "Come back to us." As their car pulled away from the mansion, Charlotte held Luna close, watching Theodore's figure grow smaller in the rearview mirror. The morning papers would soon announce his suspension as CEO. Olivia's custody suit would make headlines. The world would speculate and judge and condemn. But they had something stronger than scandal, something more powerful than headlines. They had love, trust, and a bond that no amount of distance could break. In the growing light of dawn, as the city faded behind them, Luna finally spoke. "We'll be okay, won't we?" Charlotte kissed her forehead, thinking of Theodore's promise, of the fierce determination in his eyes. Yes, sweetheart. We'll be more than okay. Because some battles were worth fighting, some loves worth protecting, and some families worth any sacrifice to preserve. The road ahead stretched long and uncertain, but Charlotte knew one thing with absolute certainty. Their story wasn't over. It was just beginning a new chapter. Theodore Montgomery stood at his office window watching rain streak down the glass. 2 weeks had passed since he'd sent Charlotte and Luna away, and every minute felt like an eternity. His phone buzzed. Another message from his lawyer. Olivia missed her custody hearing. Judge isn't happy. A small victory, but Theodore had learned to savor those. He'd spent the past 14 days methodically dismantling the threats against his family, piece by piece. The evidence of Helena's manipulation was mounting, and Olivia's erratic behavior was working in his favor. But the cost was steep. The board had temporarily suspended him, pending investigation. The press continued their relentless coverage. And worst of all, he couldn't risk regular contact with Charlotte and Luna, for fear of revealing their location. His secure phone, used only for emergency communications with the Vermont safe house, chimed with an encrypted message. His heart leaped. Luna had a nightmare. Keeps asking for you. Please call if safe. C. Theodore checked his watch. Past midnight. No risk of being traced at this hour. He dialed the secure line. Charlotte answered on the first ring. Theodore? Her voice, even through the encryption, made his chest ache. How is she? Finally asleep. She drew pictures of us today, all of us together. She misses you so much. I miss you both. He closed his eyes, picturing them in the mountain house. Has anyone suspicious been in the area? No, your security team is thorough, but Theodore... Charlotte paused. How much longer? Soon, he promised. Olivia's showing her true colors. She missed the custody hearing, hasn't completed the required drug tests, and Helena... A grim smile crossed his face. Let's just say her attempts at blackmail left a trail. Be careful, Charlotte whispered. Luna needs her father. I know. His voice roughened. Stay strong, my love. This will all be over soon. After ending the call, Theodore returned to the documents spread across his desk. Financial records, emails, phone logs, the paper trail of Helena's vindictive scheme. But something was still missing. The final piece that would prove her collusion with Olivia. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Richard Coleman, head of the board, entered without waiting for permission. It's late, Theodore. The older man looked tired. We need to talk. About how Helena manipulated the board, or about how quickly you all turned on me? Richard sank into a chair. We've known each other 20 years. Did you really think I believed her accusations? Theodore's eyes narrowed. You voted to suspend me. To protect you, damn it. Richard leaned forward. Helena was gathering support for a full removal. The suspension bought us time. Time you've used well, from what I hear. Hope flickered in Theodore's chest. You've been investigating. The entire time. Richard placed a USB drive on the desk. Helena's been busy since returning from Paris. Multiple offshore accounts, suspicious wire transfers, and then there's this. Theodore plugged in the drive, scanning the documents that appeared on his screen. His breath caught. She's been paying Olivia, he said quietly. Monthly deposits starting 3 months ago. Precisely when she returned to town. Richard nodded. Helena's pride couldn't handle seeing you happy with someone else. She found Olivia bankrolled her custody suit all to destroy your new family. Theodore's jaw clenched. We need to move quickly. The board meets tomorrow morning. Be there. Meanwhile, in Vermont, Charlotte sat on the rustic porch of the safe house, watching Luna play in the late summer twilight. The mountain air was crisp, hinting at the coming fall, and the surrounding forest provided a sense of security that almost masked their fear. Charlotte, Luna called, holding up a handful of wildflowers. Can we press these in a book for Daddy? Of course, sweetheart. Charlotte's throat tightened. Despite everything, Luna's faith in their reunion never wavered. That night, after tucking Luna in, Charlotte found herself in Theodore's study. The room smelled like him, leather and cedar and strength. She ran her fingers along the spines of his books, remembering their first kiss in a study so similar to this one. A hidden panel in the desk caught her attention. Inside, she found a sealed envelope with her name on it. My dearest Charlotte. If you're reading this, you've found my secret compartment, just as you found your way into my carefully guarded heart. I wrote this the night before you left, because there are things you need to know in case anything happens to me. First, Luna is protected. I've updated my will, ensuring that no one, not Olivia, not the board, no one can ever take her from you. You are now her legal guardian, regardless of what happens to me. Second, I've set up accounts in your name. You'll never have to worry about security again. The details are with my lawyer. But most importantly, you need to know this. Meeting you wasn't chance. It was salvation. You taught me that real strength isn't in controlling everything but in letting love guide you. You and Luna are my true north, my home, my reason for fighting. I will come for you both, no matter what, no matter how long it takes. I will make this right. All my love. Theodore. Tears blurred Charlotte's vision. She pressed the letter to her chest, feeling closer to him somehow. A small voice came from the doorway. Charlotte? I had another bad dream. Luna stood there in her butterfly pajamas, clutching her teddy bear. Charlotte quickly wiped her eyes. Come here, sweetie. She opened her arms and Luna climbed into her lap. Want to know a secret? I miss him too. But he's coming, right? Luna's voice was small but certain. He promised. Yes, he did. Charlotte kissed her forehead. And your father always keeps his promises. As they sat there in the quiet study, surrounded by Theodore's books and his lingering presence, Charlotte felt something shift in her heart. This wasn't just about waiting anymore. This was about believing. In Theodore, in their love, in the family they were fighting to protect. Back in the city, Theodore finally lay down in his empty bed, Charlotte's last message playing in his mind. We need you. Come home to us. Tomorrow would bring the board meeting, the confrontation with Helena, the final battle for his family's future. But for the first time in 2 weeks, he felt true hope. Because love wasn't just about passion or promises. It was about fighting for what mattered, about choosing your family every single day, about believing that some things were worth any sacrifice. And Theodore Montgomery was done sacrificing what mattered most. As sleep finally claimed him, he made a silent vow. By this time tomorrow, he would be on his way to Vermont, to the two hearts that made his whole. No more hiding, no more separation. It was time to bring his family home. The Montgomery Industries boardroom crackled with tension. Helena Sterling sat at the far end of the table, her usual confidence wavering as Theodore calmly distributed folders to each board member. Before we begin, Theodore's voice cut through the murmurs, I'd like to thank Richard Coleman for his thorough investigation. Helena's perfectly manicured nails dug into the leather portfolio in front of her. Investigation? Into the numerous offshore accounts you've been using to pay Olivia Montgomery. Theodore clicked a button, and bank statements appeared on the wall screen. Interesting timing, wouldn't you say? 3 months of payments, beginning exactly when you returned from Paris. Color drained from Helena's face. This is ridiculous. What's ridiculous, Richard interrupted, is attempting to manipulate this board. We've known Theodore for decades. Did you really think we wouldn't investigate? The boardroom door opened, and a woman in a disheveled designer outfit stumbled in. Olivia Montgomery's once beautiful face was haggard, her eyes wild. You're late, Theodore said quietly. Again. I'm here now, Olivia's voice was shrill. And I have proof that you're an unfit father. That you and that nanny. That I love my daughter enough to protect her from a mother who abandoned her. Theodore's calm facade cracked slightly. That I found someone who helps Luna overcome the trauma you caused? Olivia flinched. Helena said, Helena paid you to disrupt my family. Theodore's voice was steel. The same way she paid reporters to twist the story, paid investigators to harass Charlotte's former employers, paid anyone who could help her scheme. You have no proof, Helena snapped, but her hands were shaking. Theodore nodded to Richard, who opened his folder. Bank records, witness statements, recorded phone calls. Would you like me to continue? The board members exchanged glances. One by one, they began reviewing the evidence. This is harassment, Helena stood abruptly. Olivia and I are protecting Luna from an inappropriate situation. The only inappropriate situation, Theodore cut in, is you using my emotionally unstable ex-wife to attack my family. The same ex-wife who, according to these medical records, hasn't completed a single mandated drug test for her custody hearing. Olivia swayed slightly. You don't understand. Helena said if I helped, she'd what? Theodore's voice softened unexpectedly. Help you get clean? Give you money? She used you, Olivia. Just like she used Luna's pain, Charlotte's past, my position, all to satisfy her wounded pride. Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks. I never meant. Luna deserves better than me. Yes, she does. Theodore stood. She deserves peace. She deserves stability. She deserves the family she's finally found. Helena's composure finally shattered. This isn't over. I'll release everything. The photos. The rumors about Luna's paternity. Go ahead. Theodore's smile was dangerous. Release the proof that you blackmailed a single father and his daughter. Show the world who you really are. I'm sure your charitable foundation's board will be fascinated. Richard cleared his throat. I believe we've seen enough. All those in favor of reinstating Theodore Montgomery as CEO and launching an investigation into Helena Sterling's actions? Hands raised around the table. Helena's face contorted with rage. You'll regret this, she hissed, gathering her things. All of you. No, Helena. Theodore watched her storm toward the door. The only regret was ever letting you make me doubt what matters most. After Helena left, Olivia remained, looking small and lost. I'm sorry, she whispered. Will you tell Luna that? Get help, Olivia. Theodore's voice was gentle, but firm. Real help this time, do it for yourself. Once the boardroom cleared, Richard approached Theodore. Go. Your family's waiting. Theodore didn't need to be told twice. Within an hour, his private jet was fueled and ready. As they took off, he finally allowed himself to send the message he'd been holding back. Coming home to you both. Be ready. In Vermont, Charlotte's hands trembled as she read the text. Luna, who had been listlessly pushing her breakfast around her plate, perked up at Charlotte's expression. Is it Daddy? Is he coming? Charlotte couldn't hold back her smile. Yes, sweetheart, he's on his way. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Luna insisted on making welcome home signs, covering paper with glitter and hearts. Charlotte found herself checking her reflection more times than she'd care to admit, her heart racing every time she heard a car approach. Finally, as the afternoon sun painted the mountains gold, the security team alerted them to Theodore's arrival. Luna bounced impatiently by the window until his car appeared on the winding driveway. The moment Theodore stepped out of the car, Luna burst through the front door. Daddy! He caught her mid-leap, holding her close as she wrapped her arms around his neck. Princess. His voice was rough with emotion. I've missed you so much. Charlotte hung back on the porch, drinking in the sight of him. He looked tired but triumphant, his blue eyes bright as they found hers over Luna's head. Charlotte. He said her name like a prayer. She moved toward them slowly, trying to memorize every detail of this moment. The way the mountain air carried the scent of pine, the sound of Luna's happy tears, the look of pure love in Theodore's eyes. When she reached them, Theodore pulled her into their embrace with his free arm. The three of them stood there, holding each other. Finally, complete. Is it over? Charlotte whispered against his chest. Really over? Helena's been exposed. Olivia's agreed to drop the custody suit. The board has reinstated me. He pressed a kiss to her hair. But none of that matters as much as this, being here with you both. Luna wiggled to be put down. Come see what we made you. Charlotte helped me bake cookies and I made pictures and… One moment, princess. Theodore's eyes hadn't left Charlotte's face. I need to do something first. Before Charlotte could react, he cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. This wasn't like their first kiss, full of desperation and uncertainty. This was a homecoming, a promise, a future. Luna giggled. Does this mean we can be a real family now? Forever? Theodore broke the kiss but kept Charlotte close. That's exactly what it means. If… He looked at Charlotte questioningly. If that's what you both want. Charlotte thought of the letter she'd found, of the nights spent, missing him, of the love that had grown stronger through every challenge. Yes, she whispered. Forever. Luna cheered, hugging them both. Can we go home now? All of us together? Theodore smiled. Actually, I thought we might stay here a few days, just the three of us, away from everything. Like a family vacation? Luna's eyes lit up. Exactly like that. He looked around at the mountain vista. This place has given us sanctuary. Maybe it can give us a fresh start too. As the sun set behind the mountains, the little family made their way inside. Luna insisted on giving Theodore a tour, proudly showing him every drawing she'd made, every spot she'd discovered. Charlotte watched them together, her heart full. They had weathered the storm, emerged stronger, more certain of what mattered most. Later, after Luna was asleep, Theodore found Charlotte on the porch, stargazing. Thank you, he said softly, wrapping his arms around her from behind. For protecting our daughter, for believing in us, for everything. Charlotte leaned back against him, feeling truly at peace for the first time in weeks. We protected each other, that's what family does. Above them, a shooting star streaked across the velvet sky. Luna had always said they were magic, carrying wishes across the heavens. But standing there in Theodore's arms, with their daughter, sleeping safely inside, Charlotte knew she had nothing left to wish for. Everything she needed was right here. 6 months later, Charlotte stood in Theodore's bedroom, their bedroom now, smiling at the memory of that first fateful night. The same moonlight streamed through the windows, casting familiar shadows across the king-sized bed where it all began. Getting nostalgic? Theodore's voice came from the doorway. He'd loosened his tie after a long day at the office, but his eyes were bright with happiness. Just thinking about how one night changed everything. She turned to face him. Luna refused to sleep, remember? And her very dedicated nanny couldn't say no. He crossed the room to wrap his arms around her. Best decision she ever made. A small voice piped up from the hallway. Are you talking about the night you fell in love? Luna stood there in her favorite butterfly pajamas, looking more confident and happy than she had in all the time Charlotte had known her. The past 6 months had transformed her from an anxious child into a vibrant, secure little girl who knew she was deeply loved. Shouldn't you be in bed, princess? Theodore asked, though his tone was more amused than stern. I wanted to make sure everything's ready for tomorrow. Luna bounced on her toes. Can I check one more time? Charlotte and Theodore exchanged knowing looks. Tomorrow was a big day, one they'd been planning for months. One quick check, Charlotte agreed, then straight to bed. They followed Luna down the hall to what had once been a rarely used sitting room. Now it had been transformed into a cheerful space, filled with toys, books, and a beautiful hand-painted mural of butterflies. But Luna's attention was focused on the white crib in the corner. Do you think she'll like it? Luna whispered, touching the soft blankets. When she comes home? Charlotte's hand drifted to her slightly rounded belly. I think your baby sister will love it. The pregnancy had been unexpected but felt somehow perfect, a new life to cement their newly official family. Theodore had proposed 2 months after their return from Vermont, in the same garden where they'd first decided to face their future together. The wedding had been intimate, with Luna as their flower girl, beaming with pride as she scattered rose petals down the aisle. Mrs. Reynolds had cried, all her former disapproval forgotten in the face of their obvious joy. Even Richard Coleman had given a touching speech about love's ability to transform lives. "Time for bed, Princess," Theodore said softly. "Tomorrow's a big day." Luna hugged them both, lingering a little longer than usual. "I can't wait to be a big sister. I'm going to teach her everything." After tucking Luna in, they returned to their bedroom. Charlotte sat at her vanity, removing her jewelry, while Theodore watched her with that same intense gaze that still made her heart skip. "Your mother called earlier," he said. "She's flying in next week to help with the nursery." Charlotte smiled at his reflection. She's still in shock that her daughter married Theodore Montgomery. The papers made quite a fuss about that. "The papers can say what they want." He moved behind her, his hand settling on her shoulders. "All that matters is this, us, our family." The media had indeed gone wild when their engagement was announced. But this time the story wasn't about scandal. It was about love, about second chances, about a family finding its way together. Helena had left the country shortly after her schemes were exposed, her reputation in tatters. Last they'd heard, she was trying to rebuild her life in Europe. Olivia, true to her word, had checked into a rehabilitation facility. She sent Luna occasional letters, which Theodore carefully screened. They were baby steps, but they were steps in the right direction. "I had an interesting visitor at the office today," Theodore said, helping Charlotte to her feet. "Remember Daniel Chen, Luna's old tutor?" "Of course. Why?" "He's starting a program for children from broken homes, using education and counseling to help them heal." Theodore's eyes softened. "He asked if we'd consider being benefactors," said Luna's transformation inspired him. Charlotte felt tears prick her eyes. Damn pregnancy hormones. "What did you say?" "I said we'd be honored. And I thought—" He hesitated. "I thought maybe you'd like to be involved. Your degree in child development, your experience with Luna. You could help other children find their way back to happiness." The suggestion touched her deeply. "You'd be okay with your wife working?" "My wife," he smiled at the still new word, "is extraordinary. The world should benefit from that." Charlotte kissed him softly. "I love you. I love you too." His hand drifted to her belly. "All of you." A knock at their door interrupted the moment. Luna stood there looking sheepish. "I had a dream," she said. "Can I sleep here just tonight?" Charlotte and Theodore shared a look filled with love and memory. "Of course, Princess," Theodore said. "Come on." As they settled into bed, Luna between them just like that first night, Charlotte felt overwhelming gratitude. Their path hadn't been easy, but every challenge had led them here, to this perfect moment, this complete happiness. "Charlotte?" Luna's sleepy voice broke the peaceful silence. "Tell the story again, about how we became a family." "Well," Charlotte began, meeting Theodore's loving gaze over their daughter's head. "It started with a very determined little girl who wouldn't go to sleep." Luna drifted off before the story was finished, but Charlotte and Theodore remained, awake, savoring the moment. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, a nursery to prepare, a foundation to build, a future to plan. But tonight was for remembering, for appreciating the journey that had brought them here. "Thank you," Theodore whispered in the darkness. "For what?" "For giving me more than I ever dreamed possible. A real family. A love story worth fighting for. A future filled with joy." Charlotte reached across their sleeping daughter to take his hand. "We gave it to each other. All of us." As moonlight painted silver patterns across their bed, Charlotte thought about circles and endings and beginnings. That first night, she'd been so afraid of crossing lines, of wanting too much, of dreaming too big. But sometimes the biggest dreams were the ones that came true. Sometimes the scariest chances led to the greatest joys. Sometimes a family wasn't about blood or birth or background. It was about choice, about love, about three hearts finding their way to each other against all odds. And as she drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the two people she loved most in the world, soon to be three, Charlotte knew that their story wasn't really ending at all. It was just beginning its next beautiful chapter. Because the best love stories, like the best families, had no end. They just grew stronger, deeper, more beautiful with each passing day. And theirs was the most beautiful of all. If you had to choose between protecting your professional career or fighting for a true love that could cost you everything you've built, what would your decision be? Theodore chose to risk everything for the family he had built with Charlotte and Luna, even though he knew he could lose his business empire. What would you do in that situation? Your participation in the channel is very important, please. Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.